Hello buddies, welcome to Read NCERT channel. Today in this video we are going to read chapter 9 Reproduction in Animals from class 8 science. And if you haven't gone through our introduction and guidelines video how to follow these sessions, and please kindly go through that and use a pencil or an pen or highlighter to underline or highlight the points as per your wish, and try to adjust the screen brightness as per your convenience and do not trouble your eyes. Okay buddies, shall we start with today's reproduction in animals, and you can scan this QR code. So if you want to get an ePDF of this chapter from the NCERT site. Okay, so let us move on to the chapter. So I am starting reading from here. Do you recall the processes of digestion, circulation and respiration which you have studied in your previous classes? These processes are essential for the survival of every individual. You have also learned about the process of reproduction in plants and underline these. So the processes are all the life processes like respiration, digestion, circulation are essential for the survival of every individual. Okay, so you have also learned about the process of reproduction in plants. So reproduction is also one of the essential processes that needs to be performed by organisms. Okay, so reproduction is essential for the continuation of a species. So this is very important. So this is one of the major function why an organism performs reproduction. It is for the continuation of a species. Imagine what would have happened if organisms had not reproduced. You will realize that reproduction is very important as it ensures the continuation of similar kinds of individuals generation after generation. So reproduction is this is the major important thing why organisms perform reproduction. One thing is for the continuation of the species, and the second thing is for the continuation of the same kinds or the similar kinds of individuals from one generation to the next generation. You have already learnt in your previous class about reproduction in plants. In this chapter, we shall learn how reproduction takes place in animals. So, topic 9.1, Modes of Reproduction. Have you seen the young ones of different animals? Try to name young ones by completing table 9.1 shown in example at the serial number 5 to 1 to 5. You must have seen the young ones of various animals being born. Can you tell how chicks and caterpillars are born? How are kittens and puppies are born? Do you think that these young ones looked the same before they were born as they do now? Let us find out. So this is the table that was asked to fill. Okay, the young ones of human are called as babies, and the young ones of cats are called as kittens, and the dogs are called as puppies, and butterflies are called as larvae or pupa. Okay, hence young ones are called as chicks, and cows young ones are called as calf, and frogs young ones are called as tadpoles. Okay, so you can fill those boxes there. Okay, yeah, then let us move to the next. So below the table, just as in plants, there are two modes by which animals reproduce. Yes, very important. There are two modes how animals reproduce, and these two modes are: first mode of reproduction by animals is called as sexual reproduction. The second one is termed as asexual reproduction. So now moving to the sexual reproduction, try to recall reproduction in plants which you studied in class 7. You will remember that plants that reproduce sexually have male and female reproductive parts. Okay, so plants that perform sexual reproduction have two types of reproductive parts. One is the male reproductive part, and the second one is the female reproductive part. Can you name these parts? Yes, the male reproductive part of a plant or flower is called as a stamen. Yes, the stamen has a pistil. Stamen has a filament and anther, isn't it? And the female reproductive part is called a pistil, which consists of the stigma, style, and ovary from top to bottom. And ovary consists of the ovules, isn't it? Am I right? So now, can you? Okay, did you have you got a glance? So in animals also, males and females have different reproductive parts or reproductive organs. So just like in plants, So both animals and plants have two types of sexes. So one is a male sex having male reproductive parts, and the second one is a female sex with female reproductive parts. Like plants, the reproductive parts in animals also produce gametes that fuse to form a zygote. It is the zygote which develops into a new individual. Okay, so the same case like the plants, animals also form the zygotic cell. Okay, and it is from this zygote a new individual will be developed in the case of both animals and in the case of plants. So the type of reproduction beginning from the fusion of male and female gametes is called sexual reproductions. Yeah, this is important, and this is the definition for the sexual reproduction. So how can you define a sexual reproduction? So the type of reproduction beginning from the fusion of male and female gametes is called sexual reproduction. Let us find out the reproductive parts in humans and study the process of reproduction in them. So first of all, male reproductive organs. The male reproductive organs include a pair of testes. Yeah, so what are the components of the male reproductive system? So first one is a pair of testes. So singularly you need to call testes as a testis. Okay, so testis is the singular form and testes are the plural form for the two. Okay, and two sperm ducts are found in the male reproductive part along with the pair of testes, and penis is found, and the testes produce the male gametes called the sperm. So what is the role of the testes? It is to produce the male gametes that are involved in the reproduction. A million of sperms are produced by the testes. So how many innumerable numbers? So a million of the sperm cells are produced. So look at figure 9.2, so which shows the picture of a sperm. So go through this figure 9.2. Okay, so this is the figure 9.2, isn't it? So this is showing a human sperm cell. So the human sperm cell has a head and a middle piece and the tail. So these are the three basic parts of a human sperm cell. So the head consists of the nucleus, which has the genetic material or the genes from the father. Okay, and the middle piece, it consists of the cell organelles called mitochondria, which provide the energy for the motion of the tail. So tail helps in the motion or the movement of the sperm cell. Okay, or the swimming of the sperm cell. So just like swirling wire or a thread, the sperm will be moving in that manner. So let us back to the thing. Though sperm cells, here it is. Okay, though sperm cells are very small in size, each has a head, a middle piece, and a tail. So okay, these are the three things. Okay, each sperm cell has a head, and another thing is a middle piece and a tail. So does it appear to be a single cell? Yes, obviously. So a sperm cell is a single cell, but it doesn't appear to be like that because it has a tail. So can you see it is just like a little worm, isn't it? So it just beating its tail for movement. So indeed, each sperm cell is a single cell with all the usual cell components. Okay, just like a cell has various cell organelles in it, in its cytoplasm, a single sperm cell will also have the various cell organelles like mitochondria, nucleus, Golgi, endoplasmic reticulum, and ribosomes, and many other. And also in addition to it, just like bacteria, it also has an flagellum. Okay, and what does the tail in a sperm cell? Okay, just like we discussed above, it helps in the locomotion of the sperm cell. Okay, because it needs to swim through the female reproductive parts towards the egg cell. Okay, and the female reproductive organs. Okay, now the female reproductive organs are a pair of ovaries. So what are the components of the female reproductive organ? It has a pair of ovaries, and it has oviducts, which are also called as fallopian tubes. So fallopian tubes or oviducts, okay, both are same, and it has uterus. So uterus, it is in inverted pear shape. So are you aware of the fruit pear fruit? So if you invert or if you reverse the pear fruit, so that will be the shape of the uterus. Okay, the uterus, the ovary produces female gametes called ova. So what are the female gametes called in humans? So they are called as ova. Okay, the singular form of ova is ovum. Okay, na? It is ovum. O-V-U-M. Ovum. Okay, the plural is called as ova or eggs. In human beings, a single matured egg is released into the oviduct by one of the ovaries every month. Okay, a single ova or the single egg cell will be released into the oviduct or the fallopian tube every month. So it is an periodical way, and the cycle for the every month will be of 28 days for a normal healthy woman. Okay, it will this cycle of a month will be 28 days, and for approximately on the 14th day to the 15th or the 16th day will be the release of the egg. Okay, so that is called as ovulation. Okay, that process. Okay, so fine, it's not up to the extent. Okay, now continuation. The uterus is the part where development of the baby takes place. So uterus is the sac where the new baby is going to develop. So this is the place where a new life is going to develop. Like the sperm, an egg is also a single cell. Even do you know an interesting thing that a single chicken egg or an it is an single egg. Okay, the egg we use for every day, the chicken egg, it is an single cell, and the largest egg in the world is the ostrich egg. Okay, and another thing is the egg cells are the largest cells in the human body. Okay, and the sperm cells are the smallest cells. Okay, so just observe the figure 9.4 human ovum. So this is the entire thing is the membrane of the egg cell, and this is the nucleus, and this is the cytoplasm with all the requirements for the development. Okay, and then fertilization. The first step in the process of reproduction is the fusion of a sperm and an ova. Okay, so what is the first step? So it is the fusion of ova, and the sperm cell will be the initial step for the reproduction. So when sperms come in contact with an egg, one of the sperms may fuse with the egg. Such a fusion of the egg and the sperm is called fertilization. So this is the definition of the fertilization. So when one of the sperm cells come in contact with the egg cell, so what happens? These two cells fuse with each other, and this fusion of these two gametes is called as fertilization. So during fertilization, the nuclei of the sperm and the egg fuse to form a single nucleus. So both the nucleus of the sperm cell and the egg cell will be mixing together, or they are going to fuse with each other, and they result in the single nucleus. And this fertilized egg, which has a single nucleus combined by the nucleus of the sperm and the egg, is called as zygote. Okay, it is called as an fertilized egg or zygote. Okay, so next, did you know that the zygote is the beginning of a new individual? Yes, obviously, zygote, the result of fertilization, is the first cell in our body, and this zygote is going to divide and become two cells, and these two cells are going to divide again and become four, four becomes eight, eight becomes 16, and so on. The process continues, and it makes around 3 trillion cells in an adult human being. Okay, so the way our body grows, it is from the beginning with a single cell called as an zygote. Okay, so observe the figure 9.6 zygote. So this is indicating, so this is one cell from the sperm and this is another cell of the egg. So these two cells are fusing with each other, resulting in the formation of a single nucleus. So that is called as zygotic nucleus. Okay. So now the process of fertilization is a meeting of an egg cell from the mother and a sperm cell from the father. Okay, so one female gamete is from the mother and the male gamete is from the father. So the new individual inherits some characteristics from the mother and some from the father. Okay, as the genes of both the parents are going to fuse in the zygotic nucleus, so the individual or the newborn is going to have the characteristics from his mother as well as from his father. Look at your brother or sister. If you can recognize some characters in them similar to those of your mother or your father, just observe your siblings if you can able to find some of the characteristic features of your parents in them. Fertilization, which takes place inside the female body, is called internal fertilization. Yes, we have come to the types of fertilization, and we had an internal fertilization, we had an external fertilization. So these are the two types of fertilization. And the type that is going to occur inside the female body is called as internal, means inside fertilization. So internal fertilization occurs in many animals including humans and including humans, cows, dogs and hens. So it means mammals and birds and some reptiles are going to have internal fertilization. Okay, so you will be surprised to know in many animals fertilization takes place outside the body of the female. Okay, so there are even some situations where fertilization takes place outside the female body. It means in the natural environment. Okay, so in these animals, fertilization takes place in water. So where is the location of fertilization? It is in water. In case of internal fertilization, it is in the fallopian tube or in the uterus where internal fertilization occurs depending upon the animal. Okay, so in case of external fertilization, water is the place where fertilization takes place. So let us find out how this happens. Okay, so during spring or rainy season, frogs and toads move to ponds and slow flowing streams, isn't it? So we have two types of frogs commonly we call. So one are called the frogs and another one are called as toads. And toads are the common seen in our domestic habitats, and these toads are brown to pale brown color and they are comparatively bulk in their size. Okay, whereas the frogs are the smaller ones and that are very colorful, and some of the frogs they might be poisonous, so be sure, yeah, don't try to touch them or catch the frogs, okay, which are so colorful means so they must be venomous. Okay, so when the male and female come together in water, so during the rainy or the spring season, the frogs and the toads move towards the ponds or the slow flowing tree streams. Okay, so when the male and female come together in water, the female lays hundreds of eggs. Okay, so these frog eggs are also called as frog eyes because they will be just simply looking like eyes with an dark inner ball and an white colored outer portion. Okay, unlike hen's egg, frog's egg is not covered by an shell and it is comparatively very delicate. So if these eggs are not laid in water, what happens? They get they will be losing their water and the eggs are not going to survive. So that is the reason, to protect these delicate eggs, the frog will be laying them in the water. Okay, a layer of a jelly holds the eggs together and provides protection to the egg. So what is the role of this jelly? So it holds the eggs together and it provides protection to the eggs. So not making them avoiding from the natural conditions of harshness. Okay. Now, as the eggs are laid, the male deposits sperms over them. So the female is going to lay the eggs, and upon them, the male is going to deposit its sperms over them. So each sperm swims randomly in water with the help of its long tail. The sperms come in contact with the eggs. This results in fertilization. This type of fertilization, in which the fusion of a male and a female gamete takes place outside the body of the female, is called external fertilization. Okay, so the type of fertilization where the gametes are going to fuse outside the body or in the natural environment is called as external fertilization. So you can simplify this definition in this manner. Okay, and it is a very common aquatic animals such as fish and starfish. Okay, external fertilization is very common in animals, in aquatic animals, and mostly you can give the good examples like a fish, starfish, and just mentioned above frogs and toads and etc. Okay, so let us move to the next page. So where we had, this is the development of the embryo. So fertilization results in the formation of a zygote, which begins to develop into an embryo. So the zygote is going to develop into an embryo. The zygote divides repeatedly to give rise to a ball of cells. So the result of the zygotic division will be a ball of cells, and the cells then begin to form groups that develop into different tissues and organs of the body. Okay, so each group of cell will be given a specific function or specific work in our body. For example, this group of cells will be developing into as liver, and this group of cells will be developing into as heart, and other group into the lungs, other group into the intestine, other into the glands, other into the, and many other parts of the body. So this is commonly called as a division of labor. So each group of cell will be given its function to perform. So that group of cells is going to develop into that way, okay, to perform that specific given function or the work. Okay, now this developing structure is termed as embryo. So what is this developing structure which has groups of cells is called as an embryo. The embryo gets embedded in the wall of the uterus for further development. So what happens here, followed by the embryo starts growing, it will be embedded in the wall of the uterus for further development. Okay, and this process is commonly called as implantation. Okay, did you heard, it is called as implantation. So what is this process is going to be called? Implantation. Okay, so it is called as implantation. Okay, the process of embedding of the uh, embryo into the wall of the uterus is called as implantation. Fine, so that's the spelling for the implantation. Next, the embryo continues to develop in the uterus. So where is the place that embryo develops? It is the uterus. Got it. Gradually develops body parts such as hands, legs, head, eyes, ears, etc. The stage of the embryo in which all the body parts can be identified is called the fetus. So what it is called? So fetus is the stage of the embryo development or the baby development where you are able to identify the parts of the body just like hands, legs, eyes, ears and other thing. Okay, so when the development of the fetus is complete, the mother gives birth to the baby. So this is the diagram. Okay, so the fetus in the uterus. Okay, so now this entire structure is the uterus. Okay, are you getting? So this entire structure is the uterus after the elaboration. Okay, and this baby which is growing inside, and this is the layer which is around the fetus or the baby are called as extra embryonic layers. Actually their function is to hold the fluid or the liquid and protects the baby from inside. Okay, and the red cord like structure that you are able to see in the figure, so isn't it, so can you see this one? So this is the cord, it is called as umbilical cord. Okay, it is called as umbilical cord. So let me write the its spelling here. It is called as umbilical. Okay, it is called as umbilical cord. Okay, so now this umbilical cord, it has a specific function of providing food to the baby and collecting waste from the baby and supplying to the mother, and mother will be discarding them outside the body. So that is the function of the umbilical cord. Okay, and the internal fertilization takes place in hens also, means in birds also the internal fertilization takes place. But do hens give birth to babies like human beings and cows? No, obviously not. Hens are going to lay their fertilized eggs. You know that they do not. Yes. Then how are chicks born? Let us find out. Soon after fertilization, the zygote divides repeatedly and travels down the oviduct. As it travels down, many protective layers are formed around it. Okay, so what happens as it travels down? So many protective layers are going to form around the fertilized egg in case of birds. The hard shell that you see in a hen's egg is one such protective layer. So the hard shell, which consists of a chemical called calcium carbonate, so it is a protective layer which protects the fertilized zygote inside. Okay, after the hard shell is formed around the developing embryo, the hen finally lays the egg. So after the hard shell is formed, the hen is going to lay the eggs. The embryo takes about 3 weeks to develop into chick. So what is the developmental period for hen? It is 3 weeks. So 3 weeks means 21 days around, isn't it? So you must have seen the hen sitting on the eggs to provide sufficient warmth. So why does an hen sits above its eggs? To provide sufficient warmth. So this warmness makes the eggs too, and the inside the fertilized zygote will be developing into embryo, and this embryo is going to develop into the new young chick. So now this process of providing sufficient warmth and making the zygote to develop is called as incubation. Okay, it is called as incubation. I think you might have heard about incubators that we commonly hear outside, isn't it? So in the case of poultry farms, you are going to hear incubators or incubations. It is a period for the development by providing sufficient temperature and the heat. Okay, do you know that development of the chick takes place inside the eggshell during this period? Yes, the development of the little chick is going to happen inside the eggshell, isn't it? So after the chick is completely developed, it bursts open the eggshell. So now this is called as hatching, isn't it? So now this process or this step of bursting open the eggshell and coming out of the new chick is called as hatching, isn't it? It is called as hatching. Okay, it is called as hatching. Now, in animals which undergo external fertilization, development of the embryo takes place outside the female body. So where in case of external fertilization it is very important. So in case of external fertilization, the development of the baby or the embryo is going to happen outside the female body. The embryos continue to grow within their egg coverings. After the embryos develop, the eggs will be hatching. You must have seen numerous tadpoles swimming in ponds and streams. Yes, you might have confused them with little fishes that are swimming, but actually they are not fishes. They are the tadpoles of the frogs swimming in the small ponds during the rainy or the spring season. Okay, viviparous and oviparous animals. So let us see what are these types of animals are. We have learned that some animals give birth to young ones, while some animals lay eggs which later develop into young ones. The animals which give birth to young ones are called viviparous animals. They are termed as viviparous animals, and those animals which lays eggs are called as oviparous animals. They are called as oviparous. The following activity will help you understand better and differentiate between viviparous and oviparous animals. So let us do this activity. 9.2. Try to observe eggs. So it was said we need to observe the eggs of frog and lizard, eggs of butterfly or silk moth like that, and eggs of hen, and eggs of cow or any other bird. So this is something interesting. Now, how can we and were you able to observe eggs of all of them? Make drawings of the eggs that you have observed. Yes, a frog lays eggs and we can observe them. Lizard lays eggs, and butterfly and moth eggs it is difficult to find out, and hen egg is found, and crow's egg can also be seen, and other birds can be seen. Okay, now let us see. The eggs of a few animals are easy to observe because their mothers lay them outside their bodies. Yes, they are going to lay outside the body, so we can see them, isn't it? So these are examples of oviparous animals, or simply the animals whose eggs we can see are called as oviparous animals. Okay, but you would not be able to collect the eggs of a dog. Oh no, it can't be done. Eggs of a dog or a cow or cat. So how can we collect the eggs of a dog, a cow or cat? Because we can't see them laying eggs, isn't it? So this is because they do not lay eggs. So why we can't observe the eggs of these animals? Because they do not lay eggs. The mother gives birth to the young ones. Yes, they will be giving birth direct to their young ones without laying eggs. So these are examples of viviparous animals. Can you now give some more examples of viviparous and oviparous animals? Yes, obviously we can give humans are viviparous. Okay, if you want, you can make a note. Humans are viviparous. Cows, dogs, buffaloes, zebra, tiger, cheetah, giraffe, gorilla, chimpanzee, monkeys, and many other are viviparous. Okay, and another interesting thing here is I want to let you know one thing. Do you know duck belly platypus? Platypus. Okay, now this platypus it will lay eggs, and it will be feeding its young one through its breast. Okay, so it will milk feed its babies, and it will be laying eggs. So platypus is a different animal. Okay, and the flying mammal is called as bat. Bat will be giving birth to its direct young ones, and it is a flying mammal. So that's an interesting thing, isn't it? So now young ones to adults. So let us see what changes are going to happen from the young ones to the adults. The new individual which are born or hatched from the eggs continue to grow till they become adults. In some animals, the young ones may look very different from the adults. So, in case of some animals, the young ones are completely so. Just like we discussed previously, we will be confused with the tadpoles as like little fishes, isn't it? But they are not the fishes, but they are tadpoles of frogs. And the frog is completely different from that of an tadpole. Recall the life cycle of a silkworm. So this silkworm life cycle will be in your class 7. So in this silkworm, the egg will be fertilized, and egg will be developed into the larva or caterpillar, and caterpillar into the pupa to adult, isn't it? So egg to larva or caterpillar to pupa to adult. So this is the developmental stages of a silkworm, isn't it? Frog is another such example. So now in this class or in this chapter, we will be discussing frog as an example for these changes. Observe the different changes of a frog starting from the egg to the adult stage. We find that there are three distinct stages, that is egg, tadpole or larva, and adult. So what are the stages of a frog, there are three stages, and they are egg, tadpole or larva, and adult. So these are the three stages: egg, tadpole, adult. So the three stages for the development or in the life cycle of an frog. Don't the tadpoles look so different from the adults? Yes, obviously they are very different from the adult frogs. Can you imagine that these tadpoles would someday become frogs? Yes. Similarly, the caterpillar or the pupa of a silkworm looks very different from the adult moths. Okay, so make a note of this also. So in the case of silkworm also, the caterpillar or the pupa of the silkworm, they will also be looking different from the adult moth. Okay, so the adult moth will be like a butterfly with the two wings and just like an insect, and the pupa will be like in caterpillar crawling around, isn't it? The features that are present in the adult are not found in these young ones. Okay, then what happens to the tadpoles or caterpillars thereafter? You must have seen a beautiful moth emerging out of the cocoon. Okay, so this is a new beginning for the butterfly. In the case of tadpoles, they transform into adults capable of jumping and swimming. So tadpoles will be transforming or changing into adults, and these adults are so energetic and they are capable of jumping and swimming in water and around the land. Okay, the transformation of the larva into an adult through drastic changes is called metamorphosis. So, what is this term? Metamorphosis. It is the changes or the transformation of a larva into an adult through drastic changes is called metamorphosis. What about the changes that we observe in our body as we grow? No, we doesn't undergo metamorphosis because when you are a child, you have two hands, two legs, two eyes, a nose, a hair, two ears, and mouth, and your body is exactly the same shape, isn't it? But the size of the body has increased as you are grown up. Isn't it the same case with me also? When I was an young child, even I had two hands, two legs, two eyes, two ears, a nose, a mouth to speak, and an hair, isn't it? So just my body has grown up and your body has grown up, but there are no changes, isn't it? There are no drastic changes. We are not different from our young ones. Okay. Do you think we too undergo metamorphosis? No, we don't undergo metamorphosis. In human beings, body parts similar to those present in the adults are present from the time of birth. So, no new added body parts are seen. So, our development is not a type for metamorphosis. Okay, so now here we have completed the sexual reproduction, and we had another type of reproduction in animals called asexual reproduction. So, let us see what's in it. So far, we have learned about reproduction in some familiar animals, isn't it? But what about very small animals like Hydra and microscopic organisms like Amoeba? So, okay, this Hydra and Amoeba are microscopic and very small. Okay, so this Hydra is also called as a water animal. Okay, do you know how they reproduce? Let us find out. Okay, now look, in each hydra, there may be one or more bulges. So, what are these called as? Bulges. And these bulges are the developing new individuals and they are called buds. Okay, now these bulges are also called as buds. Okay, so now these each bud will be developing into an new individual. Recall the presence of buds in yeast in hydra. 2. The new individuals develop as outgrowths from a single parent. This type of reproduction in which only a single parent is involved is called asexual reproduction. So it is different from that of the sexual reproduction where two parents with male and female reproductive organs and male and female gamete fuse together as sexual reproduction. But in case of asexual reproduction, no two parents, no to sexes, no to gametes, and no fertilization. But only a single parent without gametes and without fertilization will be giving rise to a new one is called as asexual reproduction. Since new individuals develop from the birds in Hydra, this type of asexual reproduction is called as budding. So, what is this? It is called as budding. Okay. Another method of asexual reproduction is observed in the microscopic organism amoeba. So, let us see what amoeba has its mode for reproduction. Let us see how this happens. You have already learnt about the structure of amoeba. So in your class 7 you have structure of amoeba, isn't it? So let me go through quickly through the structure of amoeba. So now this amoeba that you are seeing here, okay, so this is an so single cell amoeba is a single cell that lives, okay. Now this outer layer is called as its membrane or the cell membrane, and this is the nucleus of the amoeba, and the structures that help amoeba in moving around are called as pseudopodia. I think you might have remembered it. They are called as pseudopodia. Okay, pseudopodia help amoeba in catching their food and also for their movement from one location to the another location or the place. Okay, so that's about the structure of amoeba. And you will recall that amoeba is a single celled organism. So how many cells does amoeba body have? It has only one cell. So it is a single celled organism. It begins the process of reproduction by the division of its nucleus into two nuclei. So what is the first step for the reproduction in amoeba? The nucleus of the amoeba is going to divide into two, and this division of nucleus is followed by division of its body into two, each part receiving a nucleus. Okay, just you have observed here, and here is the nucleus is dividing, isn't it? So after the nucleus has divided, so now this nucleus has entered into the this entire cell, and this individual cell is being dividing into two, and after this the entire cell has been divided into the two cells. So this is one daughter amoeba cell and this is another daughter amoeba cell. Okay, so now each nucleus has entered into the each part, each cell. Okay, and these cells are called as daughter amoeba. Okay, finally two amoeba are produced from one parent amoeba. So how many daughter amoeba are produced after the asexual reproduction? Two daughter amoeba are produced. Okay, and this type of asexual reproduction, okay, so this type of asexual reproduction in which an animal reproduces by dividing into two individuals is called binary fission. Okay, and this type of asexual reproduction, so if two cells are going to be produced after a sexual reproduction, it is called as binary. Bi means two. Okay, fission means division. So one is dividing into two is called as binary fission. Apart from budding and binary fission, there are other methods by which a single parent reproduces young ones. You will study about these in your higher classes. So, and the other type methods of reproduction are fragmentation. Okay, so in case of fragmentation, consider, so in your chapter 2 you might have heard about Spirogyra, isn't it? An aquatic algae. So now consider this is the filament of the Spirogyra, and if the filament of the Spirogyra, if some mechanical accident or something pressure has occurred, and this filament is going to break till here. Okay, and now this entire fragment of the filament will be developing into new Spirogyra, and this is into another new Spirogyra. So okay, and this method of reproduction is called as fragmentation. Okay, it is called as fragmentation. Okay, it is called as fragmentation. So because the fragments are developed into the new individuals, isn't it? And we also had another mode of sexual reproduction as regeneration. Okay, that occurs in planaria. Okay, and you will study these modes in your higher classes. Okay, and do read the story of Dolly the clone. So this is the first cloned animal, so such an interesting thing regarding the Dolly. Okay, so go through it, and let us recall what we have learned. Okay, so there are two modes by which animals reproduce, isn't it? So these are sexual reproduction, and we had asexual reproduction, isn't it? So the two modes of reproduction are, one is going to be the sexual and another is the asexual reproduction. Okay, reproduction resulting from the fusion of male and female gametes is called sexual reproduction. So this is the direct definition for the sexual reproduction. You can use this. Okay, the reproductive organs in the female include ovaries, oviducts and uterus. Okay, so these are the various parts, components of the female reproductive system. In the male, the reproductive organs in male include testes, sperm ducts, and penis. Okay, the ovary produces female gametes called ova, and the testes produce male gametes called as sperms. So sperms are the male gametes, and ova are the female gametes. Okay, the fusion of ovum and sperm is called fertilization. So it is called as fertilization. The fertilized egg is called as zygote. And what do we call the unfertilized egg? It's fertilized egg is not fertilized. Fertilization that takes place is called fertilization. And this is observed in case of human beings and other animals such as hens, cows, and dogs. Fertilization that takes place outside the female body is called external fertilization. This is observed in frogs, fish, starfish, etc. The zygote divides repeatedly to give rise to an embryo. The embryo gets embedded in the wall of the uterus for further development. And can you say what this process called as? Yes, it is implantation. The stage of the embryo in which all the body parts are identifiable is called fetus. Okay, what is fetus now? It is the stage of embryo in which all the body parts are identifiable is called fetus. Animals such as human beings, cows, and dogs which give birth to young ones are called viviparous animals. Animals such as hen, frog, lizard, and butterfly which lay eggs are called oviparous animals. Okay, so we have two types of animals based upon their whether they lay eggs or give birth to the direct one, viviparous and oviparous. The transformation of the larva into adult through drastic changes is called as metamorphosis. The type of the reproduction in which only a single parent is involved is called asexual reproduction. Okay, what are the various modes of asexual reproduction? So the hydra has an asexual mode of reproduction called as budding. So in hydra, new individuals develop from buds. This method of asexual reproduction is called budding. So amoeba reproduces by dividing itself into two, and this process of dividing a single cell into two is called as binary fission. Okay, so this is all about the types of reproductions and reproduction organisms. So about sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. Okay, so and do check the description box for the links of the other videos and for the PDF of this highlighted textbook PDF and this one that is displaying on the screen.